Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
And then they say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person. Yosemite's one of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water.
Mike Lindell's a conspiracy.
Well, you haven't. Person, woman, man, camera, TV. They said nobody gets it in order. It's actually not that easy, but for me it was easy.
Amazing.
He can't sit down. He's got a burning in his butthole. He's got a fire. He's got a flame coming out of his butthole.
Big, massive dumps.
Oh, I have a term for that. I call it corporate communism.
Somebody sent me a thing this morning where they're talking about putting the vaccine into salad dressing.
You see, this is a simple meme that you would find on the internet, but this meme is very real.
You ain't seen nothing yet until you see the flaming butthole.
Putting us on our knees to China.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
Nancy Pelosi's gazpacho police.
The nation, Waldorf Nation. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. It's Thursday. Bit of an important day. We do have the, of course, January 6th hearings going on. I've got some related stories to that, including a MAGA person who decides, you know what? It actually wasn't us that was violent during the MAGA riots. No, it was the police that started it. Now, that's kind of interesting because she actually, not in this case, but actually kind of right in a lot of other cases. So there's a little bit of nuance to that story, but also a little bit of fun because this person is obviously also insane. So we're going to talk about that. That's an interesting story. We, of course, are going to talk about some of the recent gun control hearings, or the gun control hearing from yesterday, the vote. That was unsuccessful, at least as far as, yeah, it got through the House. Is it going to get through the Senate? Absolutely not. So, not really going to do a whole lot. But nonetheless, I'm going to show you some of the Republicans and their arguments against it, of course. So, that said, we've got that, including one congressman's love of doors. He loves doors. He really, really, really likes doors. So I'm going to show you that. I know. What? Doors? All right. And then, of course, Louis Gohmert, which is always going to be fun. That's always going to be fun. Then we're going to talk about Alex Jones. It appears his legal team is not having a good time. Fun. And then we have some insanity. You guys, you got to understand, Michigan. So I live in Michigan. We are having an insane Republican primary. I talked about I think it was last week, how like 5 different Republican candidates were kicked out for forging signatures. Now we have another one that just got arrested by the FBI. I'm not kidding. The leading Republican getting arrested by the FBI. Oh my God. All right. So that's it. We got a lot of fun here. A lot of fun. Great show. Like and share the stream if you haven't already. Very important that you do so. Let's Let's get her done. Let's jump right into the stories. Get some thoughts and prayers. Representative Louis Gohmert is very, very angry. He's not a happy person. He's been very mad at the Democrats as of recently, even going on to ask, don't you believe we have a heart about these children that we let get slaughtered in schools because we won't do anything about guns? Well, apparently, Gohmert is now also angry because the Democrats don't see or don't agree with his solution to stop gun violence. And so he believes that the only way to stop a bad guy with a gun is prayer in school.
We were told in debate last week, don't want to hear any more about social media, violent video games, Hollywood, mental illness, and they sure don't want to hear any more about prayers. They're disgusted hearing about prayers. Don't want to hear any more about fatherlessness, drug use. Look, maybe if we heard more prayers from leaders of this country instead of taking God's name in vain, we wouldn't have the mass killings like we didn't have before prayer was eliminated from school.
Well, hey, that's it. That's it. I mean, there it is. All we need more in school is thoughts and prayers. And then, just like before, all the school shootings will be gone. Just like magic. Just like magic. It's sky god magic. Well, now wait a minute. Why then does sky god magic not work if you don't say the prayer, or if you don't have prayer in school? Is that some? It's like school somehow a no God zone? Is that it? And God just, oh, I'm sorry, I can't penetrate the school because you took the prayers out. I can't get in. I can't get you. I'm like a vampire. You got to let me in. You got to invite me in. Oh, come on, really? Now again, all we hear from Republicans is that thoughts and prayers, right? That's all they have. Now, of course, it doesn't work. As I've just shown you, you have shootings in schools, you've had shootings in churches. Oh, but those are black churches. So obviously, Louis Gohmert is just going to forget about that, ignore all of that. Again, it's almost as if it's complete and utter horse shit. Look, he is right about one thing, though. One thing. Yeah, the American people do not want to hear about their bullshit excuses for the amount of gun violence in this country that is preventable. But see, it's not just Democrats that are tired of it. It's also Republican voters. You have a lot of Republican voters that do say, oh yeah, no, we would like some common sense gun reforms. And again, American people are looking at kind of like a mix of different things. Like, oh, like there was a poll recently that came out where you had a small majority of Americans saying, hey, look, if teachers want to be armed, well, then they can be armed. I happen to think that that's a terrible idea. But again, you have the majority of American voters saying, well, at least we'd like for them to have the option. Okay. All right. Again, disagree with that because I don't think that it's going to work. But on other things, these same voters say, well, yes, we would like background checks, federal background checks, universal. We'd like some red flag laws. We would like to make sure that people with certain diagnosed mental illnesses who might be a danger to themselves and a danger to others wouldn't be able to easily get a gun. Even things like waiting periods, then of course raising the minimum age to buy an easily modifiable semi-automatic military assault style weapon from the age of 18 to the age of 21. Those are the things that have been presented. Those are the things that actually poll very, very well. The country wants stuff like this passed. Now, that's not banning guns. There's no high capacity magazine ban that's going to get through Congress. There's no assault weapon ban, which I think would be quite effective at reducing the numbers of mass shooters. nonetheless, they don't agree with it. They don't agree with it. Now, here's the other thing, right? So their argument is, well, the Second Amendment, right? Well, you're having regulations on who can buy certain types of weapons and accessories for those weapons. That actually doesn't break the Second Amendment. That's why, again, I can't go out and buy a rocket launcher. I can't go out and buy certain machine guns. I'm not able to do that. I can't go and buy a tank and then use it. Hey, well, I need the tank for self-defense, so you better sell me the bullet or the shells for that tank too, or else I'm not going to be able to use it. But look, again, certain common sense regulations do not actually break or violate the Second Amendment. But now what Louis Gohmert wants, Louis Gohmert is actually, his solution would actually break the First Amendment. I mean, again, you would be using federally funded schools to push religion. And again, it wouldn't be any religion. It would be his religion. He's a Baptist. He's a Southern Baptist. I mean, think about it this way, right? Say Louis Gohmert gets his way and we allow prayer back into school, which, by the way, we already have prayer in school. Individual students can pray to whatever God they want. It can't be school-led prayer. So already, Republican arguments on that are very disingenuous. You can have your own religion. You can do your own prayer. Nobody has any problem with that. But if you're getting a student, and this is what they want teachers to lead the classrooms in prayer. And that would be against the Constitution, because it would be the establishment of a religion. You can't do that. Now, imagine they get their way. And you have a place like, for example, in Dearborn, Michigan. Dearborn happens to have a pretty big Muslim population, okay? So imagine Louis Gohmert hearing about, or just, visiting Dearborn, I don't know why he'd be there in the first place or whatever, seeing a video of a teacher in Dearborn leading the class in an Islamic prayer. Some chants in Arabic. To Allah! There is some chance that Louis Gohmert's head would explode. Hey, be careful what you wish for, buddy. But anyway, back to the serious issue, right? Yes, this country has a mass shooting problem. We know that. We are the only ones who have this problem. It is very, very clear, okay? Other countries, they have mental illness, but they also generally have universal health care. And that universal health care is, of course, superior to our own. Other countries also have violent video games. It's the same games and movies that we have. There's absolutely no evidence that video games and movies, Hollywood, are linked to gun violence. Oh, by the way, back to the issue about healthcare, right? Now, again, you talk about healthcare with a conservative, they'll be like, well, you don't understand, okay? We have the greatest doctors, and we have the greatest medical schools, and we have a wonderful healthcare system. Doesn't mean a damn if you can't actually afford to see those doctors. And so, come on. But look, on a personal anecdotal note, getting back to video games here, I played them all. I played all the violent video games. Mortal Kombat, Grand Theft Auto, Doom, Call of Duty. Never once have I had the urge to pick up a gun in real life and start shooting people. I'm just saying. And look, if you want to talk about social media, well, as he does, again, that's what he talks about. He's like, oh, well, we're not talking about the real issues like social media. Be careful what you wish for, dude. Violent right-wing groups tend to use social media to radicalize young white men into their far-right movements. Some of those people who are recruited online end up going on to storm the Capitol building or to target churches in mass shootings or grocery stores over, I don't know, replacement conspiracies like white replacement theory, of which now 73% of Republicans say, yes, we believe that Jewish people, this is a conspiracy, are intentionally bringing in immigrants, non-white people, to replace white people. Now, wait a minute. Replace? What are you talking about? Replace? What, am I going to go to Guadalajara or what? Is somebody going to take my, are you going to tune in 3 days from now and it's going to be Juan instead of me? No, we're not being replaced. All right. No, if you're looking at demographics, yes, there's a demographic shift. That's from immigrants coming in and joining America. They're going to join us. They're not replacing us. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous. But they're radicalized by this stuff. All right. Fatherlessness. Talks about bad fathers. Bad fathers. No, that's not exactly something we can legislate. I mean, look, what we could do on the social front is, hey, we could make it easier to raise families in this country. That's what we could do. We could give people and families support. Like, for example, paid family leave, affordable childcare, healthcare, birth control access, education to reduce unintended pregnancies. And yes, when necessary, abortion services. And finally, he talks about drugs. Fentanyl. Hey, you know what? Fentanyl, kind of a big problem, right? Especially when it comes to the Black community. So, do we need to do something about it? Of course we do. How about we decriminalize fentanyl and use the money that we would normally spend to incarcerate these people who are addicted to it, and instead use that money to fund treatment programs. Instead of treating addiction as a character flaw and a prisonable offense, how about instead we treat it as an illness in order to be managed and treated? And by the way, while treating these people who are addicted as actual human beings. I know, shocker, right? Shocker, shocker, shocker. Now, look, I went through all of this to make a point. All right. These solutions to the problems that he talks about, I want to point out that Louis Gohmert has had a long career in Congress, and at different points he has had the chance to do votes on potential solutions to these problems. And you know what? The majority of the time, he has voted against programs that were targeted to try to solve these problems. I know, shocker, shocker. Voting against almost all of them. For example, Build Back Better. Build Back Better included childcare, paid leave, and help for families. He voted no. Voted no on COVID aid, because of course, right? Voted in the past to cut food stamps, giving tax cuts to the rich. Voted against codifying Roe v. Wade, against requiring background checks for gun purchases. Voted against expanding health care, and against allowing the government to negotiate drug prices with pharmaceutical companies. He voted against raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour. So he's also voted against sentencing and prison reform. And yet he wants to talk about fatherlessness, right? And of course, we know, by the way, that this fatherlessness talking point, where are all the fathers? Where are all the fathers? It always comes down to him criticizing the Black community. Well, you know why there is an issue with the Black community? With fatherlessness? Because you get a lot of people in those communities being put in prison for non-violent drug offenses. And you know what? Compared to their white peers who do the same drugs, and we're talking about addiction too, these black people end up getting harsher sentences than their white peers. So, that's a fact. That's a fact. And Louis Gohmert has voted against those reforms. He hasn't even talked about it. He hasn't even talked about any of the real solutions to these problems because he doesn't have any. No, Louis Gohmert, his only goal here is to push his religion on everybody else while at the same time distracting everybody in order to protect the gun lobby. As of 2018, this is the latest data that I have on donations from the NRA. Gohmert has received $13,386. Now you might hear that and be like, wow, that's really not that much. No, you're right. A lot of these congressmen, they come pretty cheap. In fact, incredibly cheap. And so I guess, hey, maybe if we want to do something, maybe we should buy Louis Gohmert. We should buy a bunch of congressmen, buy a bunch of Republicans. Maybe then they'll vote for common sense gun reform. I guess until then, Louis Gohmert needs to keep his thoughts and prayers to himself. He wants a theocracy. Witchy Dragon, yeah. And by the way, you just reminded me of him talking about how somebody wanted to reconstitute the Ottoman Empire. I think it was Obama. Gohmert is so dumb. Just dumb. Amazingly dumb. Okay, anyway. Let's move on. Republican Representative Andy Biggs of Arizona believes that the best way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a really strong door.
Supporters of this bill do not want to protect America's Second Amendment rights because they don't care about Second Amendment rights. Instead of addressing the societal issues that have been caused by decades of progressive left-wing policies that have assaulted the American family and American society, they want to ban guns. But let's talk about what Republicans have proposed, because Republicans have proposed many efforts. You just heard from Mr. Massey, one of his. But here's what you don't hear. I listened very carefully to the majority leader. He was enumerating through polls. But guess what? The majority of Americans believe schools would be safer if teachers were given options to carry a firearm. That comes from The Economist, the latest Economist poll. The Republicans have also said, let's harden the schools. Look, you've got $122 billion that you gave in relief, COVID relief to K-12. More than 90% of it remains unused. And you say, well, that we don't want to talk about doors. What do? We hide behind doors because they work. You can harden schools and make them work. You can arm guards and make them work and make children safer.
That's it. Doors. Big, beautiful, thick doors. Tremendous doors. The biggest doors, the greatest doors. Perhaps doors with bulletproof glass. Maybe some bars over the windows. And hey, you know what? While we're at it, why don't we get all the kids to wear matching jumpsuits? Okay? And have numbers on them so we can keep track of them, okay? And, you know, not confuse them with a potential shooter. Why don't we add some more armed guards? Maybe, you know, with openly carried long guns, rifles, you know, little barbed wire on the outside. Add a few sniper towers. And finally, you've got a prison. That's what you have. You have a prison. That's a prison. Now, I know it's hyperbole, right? But if you don't think that they'll actually try to go to that point? I mean, look, we've already had Ted Cruz talking about putting in man traps. Man traps! Come on. We have metal detectors in a lot of schools. We already have armed guards or resource officers. I mean, how much are we going to try to imprison our children in order to try to coddle a few insane gun hobbyists? Again, that's a fringe minority that is holding us hostage. The vast majority of Americans actually support common sense gun reforms like background checks, waiting periods to buy guns, bans on high capacity magazines, red flag laws, raising the age to buy an AR-15. A lot of that's pretty modest stuff. But you got these clowns out there talking about doors. Doors. And first, by the way, let's get rid of all the doors. Let's just only have one door, said Ted Cruz. Not a good idea, Ted, because it turns out if you remove all the doors and only have one, you're going to have a fire hazard. Yeah.
God bless you.
And again, that's one of their ideas. And the other idea is, oh, no, now let's add bulletproof doors. Again, I don't want our schools to turn into prisons. And I don't think the children also want to go to school in a prison. But now here's the thing, right? We already have a lot of schools across the country that have already done this on their own. They've already installed military-grade doors. I'm not kidding. In fact, and this, might be part of why Republicans are also calling for this. School hardening is turned into an industry worth $2.7 billion, at least now. Billions more spent on school police. So, I mean, we got all that money to spend on bulletproof doors and windows that can stop 100 rounds from an AR-15. Yeah, that's what the doors are rated for. All this fancy security stuff, but we cannot afford to buy new books for kids, or new computers, or new desks, or make sure that the heat and air conditioning work in the winter and summer respectively. Can't do any of that. Oh, no. Can't do any of that. And again, here's the other thing. The jury's still out on whether or not all that school hardening is particularly effective. In fact, according to, this is a 2016 study by Johns Hopkins University. Okay. Now they found that there was limited and conflicting evidence in the literature on the short and long-term effectiveness of school safety technology, or otherwise known as school hardening, right? So now, again, that was done in 2016, 6 years ago. And so far still, we've seen from the evidence and the fact that we have more and more school shootings, doesn't seem to be all that effective. But here's what they found. Let me give you some of the details, right? So that they found there was, again, limited and conflicting evidence. On the one hand, they say that the schools that have experienced gun violence had consistently cited simple, well-established safety measures as most effective. And what do I mean by that? Rapid lockdown drills, evacuation strategies, doors that can be secured in seconds. Okay, so there is room for doors, resource officers, or other adults who act quickly. However, at the same time, we go forward a couple of years to a 2018 analysis by the Washington Post. They found that in many cases, in dozens of cases, having armed school resource officers had failed to actually stop a shooter. Among the more than 225 incidents on campuses since 1999, at least 40% of those affected schools had employed an officer. So they said that the officers didn't necessarily work. However, preparedness for them worked better than that. Now, let me just say, all that's well and good, okay? But it's still a reaction. You know what's better than a reaction? Prevention. Look, being reactionary means you've already had a string of failures in your system, okay? That led to the point of an armed person trying to enter or have already been entered into a school. Or in some cases, having waited outside to shoot someone outside of a school. Now, let me give you that detail. In 2016, for example, Utah's Union Middle School had pretty good security. They had a surveillance system, external doors that could only be accessed with IDs, as well as an armed resource officer. When a 14-year-old boy outside the school shot another student twice in the head during a confrontation outside the building, as after class had ended. So now, Jeffrey P. Haney's district spokesperson said this, quote, "Even if we would have had metal detectors, it would not have mattered. If we would have had armed guards at the entrance of the school, it would not have mattered. If we would have required students to have see-through backpacks and bags, it would not have mattered." So, again, that wasn't in the school. That was right outside the school. Shot and killed. Another example of a school, Huffman High in Birmingham, Alabama. This is, again, another school that had been hardened. In fact, they had surveillance cameras that were mounted inside and outside of the school. And periodically, the 1,370 students were checked for weapons, both with handheld and walk-through metal detectors. You also had 3 armed resource officers that were patrolling the hallways. And yet, even in all that situations, you had a kid who had a handgun. And by the way, this wasn't a mass shooting situation. But this kid brought a handgun from home and was like, "Hey, well, look at this. This is so cool. I got a gun. Yeah, everybody tells me I should love guns. Yeah." And then what happened? It accidentally went off, as guns do. And it fatally struck senior Cortland Arrington. She was 2 months away from graduation. Died. An accident. No amount of hardening schools can prevent that. So, you can harden schools all you want. And you might stop a few people, sure. But if you don't do something about the gun culture, as well as the easy access to high-powered weaponry, then you're not solving the problem. All you're doing is throwing money at companies in order to try to turn schools into prisons. Which, again, I'm sure probably doesn't do any favors for the mental health and well-being of those kids that are inside. Not to mention, of course, having to survive a school shooting in the first place. But God forbid, we don't care about that. We only care about the mental well-being of a few psychopaths who have made guns their entire identity. Disgusting. School is hard enough. We don't need it to be harder. That's a good one. That's a good one. All right, moving on. A self-described January 6th truther, oh boy, recently decided to place the blame for the violence on January 6th, not on Antifa, not on Black Lives Matter, no, on the cops. Oh, interesting. So now this person is Julie Kelly, and she recently appeared on Steve Bannon's War Room, so that podcast, and, well, here's what she said.
The people who were violent on January 6th were the police who were there, DC Metro and Capitol Police, who were throwing flashbangs and dousing protesters with tear gas and using rubber bullets against them outside the building. Those were the violent people on January 6th. The Proud Boys, Joe Biggs and Ethan Nordine, and the other ones who have been incarcerated under pretrial detention orders, they did nothing violent. But it doesn't matter, Steve. You know this. None of this matters. Facts don't matter. They're going to lie tomorrow night that all these police officers were killed on January 6th. We're going to hear about Brian Sicknick again, who died of natural causes, nothing to do with January 6th. You're going to have, more testimony from police officers and clips about how traumatized they were.
All right, so I had to stop there because, she admits it already. Facts don't matter. How correct you are. At least, and it doesn't matter to the people that you're talking to. Okay. But look, again, let's talk about the irony, right? The irony of the most delicious kind. So you're going to tell me that the police who are pro-right-wing intentionally beat up right-wingers. What? I'm sorry. That doesn't make any sense. Now, look, I'm not saying that cops don't regularly beat the crap out of protesters. We know for a fact that they do. But here's the thing. They only do it to certain types of protesters. Certain kinds. And let me say, I can guarantee that it's that pro-police, pro-Blue Lives Matter MAGA supporters ain't those kind of people that cops attack. Okay? Again, we know that for a fact. You can go to and look at a lot of these George Floyd protests, for example, where you had police that were literally picking people off the street randomly. It just, insane stuff that's happened. And yes, by the way, in the George Floyd protest, police absolutely did what she was describing. We're starting the violence. They would go in, they would provoke that violence. But again, note how they only do that against certain types of protesters. When it comes to MAGA people, well, they had a very, very light hand, very gentle. But look, as far as what actually pushed the police in the Capitol to actually fight back, and some of them did. There were some black officers that had actually been, very serious about their jobs, okay, in trying to defend the Capitol. We have the videos of people pushing their way through these barricades, through police, after police had to leave those barricades, to retreat from them. We also know that Capitol Police in this case had refused several offers for help. So now, 3 days before the riots, the Pentagon had asked the Capitol Police, based on evidence, that, hey, there's going to be a huge MAGA thing that's going to go on. There's going to be a huge rally, Stop the Steal, and we are concerned that there's going to be violence there. So maybe, you should beef up your security. Capitol Police say, nope, no, we don't need it. We don't need the National Guard. We don't need the FBI. That was during the riot. The Justice Department said, hey, whoa, we see what's going on there. Do you guys need some FBI agents? No, we're good. We're good. We got this. Super. No, not super. They're not doing very well. In fact, they were doing quite badly. But again, it doesn't matter. As she said, facts don't matter. Facts don't matter. But look, they figured, hey, it's just a bunch of Trump supporters. 99% of them are white Republicans. They're not going to do anything. They're fine. They can come in. And again, look at the assumptions, right? Especially when you compare this response to past protests at the Capitol building that involved black people. In fact, Theodis Jones, this is a black officer whose career had stretched from the Nixon inauguration to Barack Obama's. he had worked as part of the Capitol Police. He said that the agency had consistently overreacted to events with black participants. Oh, you don't say. You don't say. He said this. He had recalled that when Louis Farrakhan, the Nation of Islam leader, visited the Capitol with just a handful of associates, all officers were required to stay at their posts. And they had a SWAT team on standby in a garage. Why do you need that? It's Farrakhan, just like a couple of people. What do you think he's going to do? Now, again, you get like a handful of black people, they're on high alert. Oh my God, red alert, station 1, there's black people near the White House. Can't have that. Sound the alarm. But when it is thousands of Trump supporters that you already know, some of them plan to do violence, try to storm the Capitol, they did nothing. Nothing. Now, back to Jones here. He said, I thought that was an insult to every black officer on the force. Now, you had a whistleblower as well, who was part of the Capitol Police. He said that 2 senior officials in the department, Sean Gallagher, and which is the Capitol's acting police of uniformed operations, and Yogananda Pittman, its assistant chief of police for protective and intelligence operations, did not distribute crucial information to the command staff prior to the riots. The whistleblower also claimed other game-changing information that was never distributed, including information that the groups with demonstration permits around the Capitol on January 6th were all facades for Stop the Steal. He also claimed that while he was in the Capitol Police's command center with Pittman and Gallagher during that attack, those two were just doing very little to nothing to control the riot. Quote, what I observed was them mostly sitting there blankly looking at the TV, showing real-time footage of officers and officials fighting for the Congress and their lives. He added that the pair did not try to help or assist as officers and officials were literally fighting for each other, their lives, and the Congress. Weird. Hey, it looks like this person is a liar. Oh, no, the cops were there. They were doing violence against the Trump voters. Yes, against the Trump supporters. No, they had very light, silky gloved hands. That's what they had. All the facts, plus all the video evidence of the riot, testimony from whistleblowers, people who were involved, all of it show that the police were not the ones who instigated this violence. And in fact, we know that the police were not proactive enough in trying to stop the violence. Had it been a group of Black Panthers or Black Lives Matter protesters that tried to run the barricades, you know what would happen? They'd be dead. They would have been shot dead or arrested. Probably the first one. This woman is living in a fantasy land. It's not real. But no, I've got one more video here, and this is where, of course, she gets into a conspiracy. How, the January 6th committee, they're going to try to they're going to use this to destroy the Constitution and frame Trump.
I guess you have to destroy the Constitution like Jamie Raskin is suggesting to protect the Constitution or something like that. It's all performance, but it does serve the purpose, as I said, to build up public justification to eventually bring charges against Donald Trump. And Steve, I see no reason why this DC U.S. Attorney's Office, Matthew Graves, a Biden campaign advisor, there's no reason for him not to bring charges against Donald Trump. They have gotten away with everything to this point.
Oh, really? Graves, I believe, is the one who declined to bring charges against Mark Meadows. And I mean, come on. Really? Really? Jesus Christ. This is what we have. This is what we have. Ridiculous. Absolute liar. All right. Let's move on. Conspiracy theorist Alex Jones is not having a good year. He's coming off a string of courtroom losses, and now some of his lawyers are starting to turn on each other. I'm all here for it. So, here's some details. According to Will Sommer of the Daily Beast, Jones has been employing a rotating cast of attorneys that represent himself and InfoWars from the myriad of different lawsuits that the company and himself are facing over defaming Sandy Hook families. So now, those lawsuits have been very successful. He has not been successful at fighting against those things. And so now, lawyers are playing the blame game. So now, as the Daily Beast reports, InfoWars conspiracy theorist Alex Jones could soon be suing his own lawyers, as Jones and his company scramble to blame someone else for their legal failures and lawsuits over their lies about the Sandy Hook school shooting. You don't say. What, lies? Lies? Alex Jones lied? No, making things up and then getting in trouble for it and then blaming someone else? No, he would never do such a thing. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? No. All right, so the report notes that a transcript of a February deposition indicates that InfoWars attorney Brittany Paz expressed dismay with how the court cases were turning out, and should the lawyers involved be sued. Now, here's what she said. I did have concerns on behalf of the company regarding the company's prior representation. Yes. Paz doesn't say in her deposition which of the former attorneys InfoWars might sue. However, as a possible indication, she did single out 3 of them, Mark Randazza, Brad Reeves, and Robert Barnes, for particular criticism. Now, Paz accused some of InfoWars lawyers, these lawyers particularly, of botching document discovery in these cases. Now, that's funny because what document discovery? They didn't hand over any documents. And what documentation could they possibly get from the victims? You defamed them. He literally went on his show for years and said, oh, you know, these Sandy Hook families. No, it didn't actually happen. Oh, that's right. So what happened, it was a false flag. And it was actually, it was the government that were turning the frogs gay. And what the frogs did is they actually went in and played as crisis actors in these schools. Let me tell you, folks, it's the government. They're after us. They've got the gay frogs on their side, and also Satan. We have to do something about it. And you know how you can help. You can support InfoWars by buying Brain Force Ultra Plus. Support the InfoWars. Oh my God. All right, anyway. So now, that led to accusations of some of InfoWars lawyers, as I said, of them deliberately sabotaging the process. Wait. What lawyer would be dumb enough to intentionally sabotage their own side? Their own side. But they wouldn't. They're dumb. That would be so incredibly stupid and damaging for your own career. Why? But of course, leave it to Alex Jones and the InfoWars Council, because honestly, who would work for them? Who would represent them? You'd have to be crazy. but leave it to them to come up with a crazy conspiracy to go along with it. Now, some of them did respond to these allegations. In a statement, Randazza told the Daily Beast that other utterly terrible lawyers who have worked for InfoWars are trying to distract from their own mistakes. Quote, the revolving cast of lawyers at InfoWars has included some outstanding lawyers who are confident in their own abilities. It has also included some utterly terrible lawyers who have made some of the dumbest moves I have ever seen. If they were that bad, why would you hire them? Honestly, it doesn't make any sense. He added, those in the latter camp seem to be interested in deflecting attention from their incompetence onto the competent lawyers who compete with them. Don't they hire all the best people? Honestly? I mean, I thought the right wing, I thought they understood how to run businesses. I thought they understood how to find talent. They find the best people, the greatest people, the most tremendous people. Apparently, no, they find the worst people, the most incompetent people, and they give them jobs. Ridiculous. All right, there's more. Reeves, who also stepped down from representing Jones before the deposition, had also defended his work, saying, quote, I am confident that nothing I did or did not do during my time representing InfoWars constitutes any sort of malpractice. Notice, he wasn't talking about malpractice. They're talking about being a crappy lawyer. Any suggestion to the contrary is really nothing more than an attempt by other counsel to deflect from their own mistakes. You know what's missing here? Facts. I know. Now, the fact is, Alex Jones didn't have a case. Alex Jones clearly defamed the Sandy Hook families. I don't know if any lawyer would actually have been able to save him from that. I mean, there is hours and hours of video evidence of him saying the most horrible things about the Sandy Hook families. I mean, even, again, calling it a hoax, an excuse to come and take your guns. Again, false flag. There's crisis actors mocking the families when they were, videos of them crying. Again, all this disgusting stuff that is easily viewable. It is all on the internet. And yes, it's on the internet. And guess what? Also, it's in the courtroom being used that was going to be used against Jones. So, I mean, come on. And again, they didn't even go to trial. This was a default judgment against Alex Jones because Jones refused to turn over discovery materials because he never had a case. Never had a case. He did it. He did it. And again, there's so much evidence. I've shown you so many videos on this program alone of Jones saying these terrible things, which caused real harm to these families, not just emotional. But one of these families had to move, 6 times? Because you had unhinged Alex Jones fans that were constantly stalking these people, harassing them, attacking them. So, come on. Not even Johnny Cochran could have won this one. Not even the Chewbacca defense. Wouldn't have worked. Clear cut. And so, I think, to me, it seems pretty evident that this was going to happen, that his legal defense was just going to absolutely fall apart. And I didn't quite see his lawyers turning on each other and then him turning on his own lawyers. That was interesting. But obviously, they're in a panic because Alex Jones, he's going to lose a lot of money. And if they lose, if Alex Jones and InfoWars lose all their money, well, who's going to pay the lawyers? Good question. All right. Let's move on. One last story here. Yeah, see, some of you got the Chewbacca defense. That's an old South Park reference. Didn't Jones file for bankruptcy? Yeah, but as I explained in another video, that's kind of like a way for him to attempt to hide his money. So he has money, but he's trying to hide it from getting taken in this settlement. Don't pay the lawyers, problem fixed. What is he, Donald? Who do you think he is, Donald Trump? Oh, and yes, he is getting bailed out with crypto. I did see those very, very suspicious crypto payments. So, yeah. All right. Anyway, let's go to last story here. More MAGA chuds. Early on Thursday, the FBI arrested a Michigan Republican gubernatorial candidate named Ryan Kelly. So this happened during a raid on his house on charges related to his actions on January 6th. Kelly was at the Capitol. He was in the crowd of MAGA supporters. Now, the Bureau confirmed to multiple Michigan news outlets that Kelly was taken into custody on Thursday, while the FBI was executing a search and arrest warrant at his home near Grand Falls. It's in Allendale, Michigan. In a court document made public on Thursday, federal investigators say Kelly was recorded on video outside of the Capitol on the day of the insurrection, repeatedly waving the crowd and directing them towards the stairs leading into the building, although, of course, he did not get into the building himself. He had used his phone to film the crowd assaulting and pushing past U.S. Capitol police officers and was in a crowd that climbed the stairs to a Capitol entrance after causing police to retreat, the FBI said. Kelly is accused of disruptive conduct, injuring public property, and entering restricted space without permission, according to the criminal complaint. All of this, of course, is misdemeanor stuff. He was released from custody without posting bail. The government did not ask that Kelly be detained. So again, very, I would say serious, but then again, these are misdemeanor charges. And so now the document also included multiple photos of Kelly that the FBI described as screen grabs from video taken that day, with Kelly wearing aviator sunglasses and a baseball cap worn backward, trying to rally the pro-Trump crowd. So there's all that. Now, what's interesting here about this is that Kelly is a leading contender for the Republican primary that is scheduled on August 2nd. So look, Republicans, they're holding the primary. They're going to challenge Gretchen Whitmer. And it's been an absolute clown show. According to a Target Inside Michigan RAS poll conducted on May 26th to May 27th, Kelly has 19% support. Now, 19%, but again, crowded primary field, right? That's a 4-point lead over his nearest competitor, and the remaining 3 candidates only have a single-digit support. So now the good news is 49% of Michigan GOP primary voters are still undecided. And again, I'm not surprised. The Republican Party in Michigan, the primary has been a complete and utter shit show. Earlier this month, the Michigan Court of Appeals rejected efforts by 2 Republican candidates for governor to have their names placed in the August primary ballot, after they had collected thousands of fraudulent signatures. So you have to get at least 15,000 signatures to be able to get on the Michigan primary ballot. Now, a lot of these candidates, and there were 10 in total, they collected over 15,000 signatures. But then we had a review. There was a review that was done and found that a lot of these signatures, thousands, tens of thousands, were forged. They weren't real. They're just not real people. Didn't exist. Huh. Fascinating. And after that was found, 5 candidates were disqualified. They were dropped from the ballot. Gone. Those candidates, 2 of them, businessman Perry Johnson and financial advisor Michael Markey, had filed lawsuits after Michigan's Board of Canvassers deadlocked last month, leaving in place a decision by the state's Bureau of Elections that 5 gubernatorial candidates did not have enough valid signatures to qualify for the ballot. The court's unanimous decisions marked a major setback for the affected candidates, including former Detroit Police Chief James Craig, who filed legal challenges in an effort to revive their campaigns. Kelly, however, was not among the candidates affected by the signature issue, but now apparently he has other issues, like, being an insurrectionist. Huh. Weird. What's funny, though? I should just see this helping him. I mean, look, with the Republican voters, they kind of like this stuff. He checks all the boxes, too. He was, for example, against COVID lockdowns. That's when he first, rose to prominence in the Republican field. He had organized protests with militias to gather inside the State House. And so, yeah, that was part of why he's more famous, of course. He was also speaker at a Stop the Steal rally in Lansing, the capital, telling the crowd the Democrats are trying to steal Trump's victory. Oh, really? Now, as a candidate, Kelly had also said that if elected governor, he would work to cancel contracts with companies that provided voting machines to Michigan and eliminate same-day voter registration. So let's just get rid of the voter registration, guys. And just last week, Kelly had declined to participate in a Republican debate because the organizers on Mackinac Island required proof of COVID vaccination or a negative COVID test, of which, again, he refused. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to do a debate because I don't want to be vaccinated. Really? Really? So, obviously, this guy's a MAGA chud through and through. Big Trump guy. Obviously believes in the big lie, or at least pretends to believe in the big lie in order to get dumb, Trump voters to vote for him. I don't know. But now he gets to add being arrested by the FBI for being at January 6th onto his resume. And again, I think that unfortunately in this environment, it's only going to help him. So I guess, Republicans sure know how to pick candidates. This guy's the leading Republican candidate now, and it's probably going to get, again, even better for him. Wonderful. Jeez. All right. Well, that's all I have today. That's quite the show. Quite the show. Oh, look at that. I think there's an update here. Let's see. The FBI has arrested Ryan Kelly. Okay, that was just that story. I thought that was a new update on that. Okay. So yeah, we'll have to do some updates on that. All right. Well, let's see. Let's go through and see if there are any super chats, as well as things on Twitch. Going to Twitch here. Let's start with that. Occam's Taser, thank you for resubbing for a month of tier 1 for 13 months. Nice. Thank you. Valerie Fisher, thank you for resubbing for a month of tier 1 for the 3rd month in a row. Really, really appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Very, very kind. Very kind. Let me go and check the super chats here from y'all on YouTube. Let's see. Tyler Hackner, thank you for the very kind $2. Appreciate that. Jonathan Leiter says, we need moats around the schools with piranhas, gators. Yes. Yeah, that, you know what? That's exact. You know what we need? We need gay frogs. That'll keep everyone out. Gotta keep the gay frogs in the moat so you can keep out the mass shooters. That'll work. That'll work. All right. Or, you know, maybe we could just send
Nancy Pelosi's gazpacho police.
That'll stop them. That'll stop all the school shooters. It'll stop them all. All right. Jeez. All right. Let's see. Finally, Gabby Mathis, thank you for the very kind $5. Really, really appreciate that. Really, really appreciate that. All right. So with that, let's do a raid here. Let's go and raid Ravana over on TYT. So that should be cool. So stay for that. As far as everybody else, please like and share the stream. Very important that you do so. Again, helps us out greatly. Thank you for watching. We'll be back here tomorrow. Have a great, great night. Love you all. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. See y'all tomorrow.
Obama. Disappointed!
They want to make you drink Starbucks every day from now until forever.
It's not a salami sandwich. It's a viable baby in the womb.
They say, what's a nation? How did you do that?
Peachtree dish.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
They're kicking me out the door. They're kicking me out the door.